City election coming up on May 3rd. We're taking time to get to know the candidates running for office. Joining me now is Les Simpson. Place 4. This is your second go around running for office. What was it like being in this line of work in journalism for so long, jumping into the political atmosphere the last time around?
Yeah, it's a lot different on this side of the microphone, Andy,
Right.
let me tell you. But no, it's been good. And I think really, I spent 30 years watching government, looking at government, not only here and other places. So I felt like that background and experience would benefit me. But I would tell you, there's still a lot to learn when you're sitting up there. It's complicated. There's a lot going on. There's a budget that is, covers a lot of different things. So it was had a good learning curve to do that. But I really felt like I've learned a lot in the time that I've been on there. I'm proud of many of the accomplishments that we have, and I look forward to taking that knowledge and experience, and if the voters reelect me, serving for 2 more years on the city council.
Let's talk about the first go around in that, and I know it's hard because we're doing this, it feels like every 2 years.
Yes.
Because we are. What is it like in terms of looking back on those 2 years? What are you most proud of that y'all were able to accomplish?
Well, I think the thing I'm probably most proud of relates to the issue that is at the top of everyone's mind, and that's public safety. It's the most important thing for people in our community, and we were able to make some historic investments into public safety, and that include, we had real issues with attracting and retaining first responders. That is your police officers, your fire officers. We had immense shortages of police officers. We had fewer and fewer people attending the academies, both the fire academy and the police academy. And so we knew that we had to do something about that. And we were woefully underpaying them, and we were not as competitive as we need to be. So we bumped up the salaries across the board, particularly the starting salaries for police officers and firefighters. And now we are seeing nearly double the amount of people that are interested in applying to the police academy, the fire academy. We're having far more people that have been in the last 2 academies than we had of the previous 6. And it's not only the salary compensation is part of it, but also the police and fire are doing things to be able to attract and retain. And then also we're investing in equipment. A meeting recently, we came up with a strategy where we're going to be constantly investing in new fire equipment. Yeah. We just approved 6 new engines and 2 ladders. It's going to take about 3 years to get here. They're very expensive and they take a while to produce, but we've come up with a strategy to be able to do that. Also, we reinstated cost of living adjustments for retirees that included all the city employees, including police officers. So if you're a city employee dating back and you retired, you did not get an increase in the amount of your retirement since 2011. Okay. So that was how much inflation has gone up, and that part of it. So, but for many years to jump back into it, we would have had to pay all those increases retroactively. Well, For Price and Toby Hudson, Toby heads up the Police Officers Association, got legislation passed that would allow us to get back into giving the cost of living adjustments without having to pay all that retroactively. Wow. And so we've done that, and now they're getting cost of living adjustments. It's another recruiting tool, not only for police officers, but for city employees as well. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done in our public safety area.
How are you able to do that and not do a bond?
Well, we looked at a lot of different areas. Yeah. I mean, we spent the first year, I think it was a total of about 7 days, 8 hours a day going through the budget.
Drinking from a fire hose, literally.
Yes,
at that point, right?
And just being able to look at things and reprioritize things. And then we did it again this year, in the budget to be able to do things that are under the means. So a lot of savings was found. My fellow council members have worked really hard to be able to find some of the savings. Staff has worked through that to be able to do that. So, we're very limited. The property tax, we've actually lowered the property tax rate the last 2 years. And we have very minimal increases in the amount of money we can get each year from property tax. Sales tax has been good. It continues to go up. It's our largest source. So, really looking at the savings and how we can save money, as well as some of the increases that we got, particularly in sales tax, have allowed us to be able to do that.
Well, you're obviously running again, so there's some unfinished business. Let's talk about some of the things that maybe you didn't get done in that first term that you feel like need to get done the second time around.
Yeah, I think continuing the work that we have done, being able to focus on that. There's a couple other things that we've got to be able to continue to do. We weren't able to make as much headway on kind of the street and road repairs as we would have liked to. We did find about more than $30 million of bond money that had not been spent from 2016. If you remember, back in 2016, voters approved a bond issue. We were ready to issue more debt to pay for additional road work last year. But what we found out is you can't do that until we'd spent a certain amount of that money that was issued back in 2016. So you can't issue more debt until you spend off a lot of that. So the bad news is we couldn't issue the additional debt. The good news is we did find that $30+ million, and we began spending that immediately. As we spend that down to meet the IRS and Treasury Department regulations of how much we have to spend, once we get there, then we've developed a plan where each year, for about $1.2 to $1.4 million, we can fund $12 to $14 million of road work each year. And our plan is to be able to do that on consecutive years and be able to have a constant flow of revenue to be able to repair our streets and to be able to catch up with that on a regular basis. So, and really, about $12 to $14 million a year is about all we can get done each year. Maybe you could do a little bit more. So I think the thing we got to do is maintain the momentum of coming up with a consistent long-term strategy to fund those improvements. You're just not going to catch up with it all in one year. You could try, but you'd have to raise taxes astronomically, and you're just not going to be able to do that. So I'm really proud of that work. Something else that I think that we did that was really beneficial is when we first took office, we had the tremendous flooding.
Right out of the gate.
We did. We set aside $47 million that is doing work now on getting pumps for Lawrence Lake. Lawrence Lake was the real problem that we have, because if you look at how we handle floodwater, all the floodwater from the south comes up to Lawrence Lake, and then it pumps up to Meddy Park, and then it goes on up to the Canadian River and out that area. Well, Lawrence Lake is where we had the flooding, and that's where we've added money to do dredging. We've added money to buy new pumps for Lawrence Lake that will pump about 5 times the rate that it was pumping. You're going to see construction on a new piping system that's going to handle a lot more water that will take it out of Lawrence Lake into Meddy Park. It'll mean construction right down through the Olson neighborhood is where that will go. But it takes the water out of Lawrence Lake, goes up. You have to push that water out because it's going uphill to I-40.
Right.
Once it gets to I-40, then gravity takes over, takes it to Meddy Park. Meddy Park has it and moves it on out. Greenways has some flooding issues. We've put in a permanent pump there. So that flooding that we have, we've made some significant investments. The interesting thing also on the flooding is you saw no flooding problems north of I-40. And that's because previous councils, Martin Lake used to be an area where we had a lot of flooding. So the good news is when the flooding came, we had taken care of a lot on the north side and invested there, Martin Lake and some other areas. No flooding issues. Meddy Park didn't have any issues. It was full, but didn't cause any problems. But now it's from the south that we've got to be able to get the water up. And so we invested in that to make sure that we don't have that type of flooding in the future.
You mentioned the north side. I want to dive into that in terms of really the infrastructure over there in the water system. And we've heard a lot about needing those upgrades there on the north side of town.
Yes, yeah, and we've heard that loud and clear. We put, just right out of the gate in the budget this year, we put $1 million for infrastructure improvements just on immediate projects that need to be handled there. We've also investing a significant amount of money in the Northeast Interceptor, which is going to be able to help water and sewer lines all across the area, and being able to handle and get that. So that will help on the north side as well. But again, that's another issue that we've got to be able to address, because about half of our water and sewer lines are between 50 and 100 years old. We're making some headway on that, but that's another thing that we have to be able to have a consistent solution for that, and that's one of the things that we'll be working on going forward.
In terms of probably one of the bigger, I mean, you guys dealt with a lot of big issues this past year. Is there anything that, in terms of the AEDC and kind of how all that played out, are we at a better space now?
Yeah, I would tell you, looking at the EDC and how it operates, I have no problem with that. Yeah. What we've been doing, I think, is good and healthy. Sometimes how we've done it is, I don't think, our council's best moments of kind of how some of it is handled. But no, I think it's good to be able to look at these things to say, how can we improve it? And really, listen, we've beat the past like a dog. Let's continue to move forward. Council has a very important task of filling 4 seats on the EDC, and then the EDC has a very important task of hiring a new executive director. So I think we've realized that there are things that we can do. There may be things that we can change, but I think our EDC has had a great track record through the years of some of the things that we've been able to accomplish, and I think we're poised for attracting new industries. Bell Helicopter is on the verge of making some very big decisions about where they're going to put their next project, which is one of the biggest projects that they've ever had. And looks like Amarillo is still in the running, but we need to continue to move forward so that we can get that. In terms of your kind of wish list moving in, we talked a little bit about infrastructure. Is there anything else over the next 2 years that's a personal subject for you where you're like, this is something that I hope that the council concentrates on? Yeah. I think, we've looked a little bit on the transparency side. We added a rolling agenda, which has items that are on there in advance. I mean, I think, we've also just, we believe that sunshine should shine on everything. Right. We need to make sure that it shines on ourselves sometimes. I've had a couple of concerns about, how we've been spending some money, and we need to make sure that we apply the same standards to council that we apply to others, and being able to do things in sunshine and be transparent about that. Going back to the, one thing that I think I'm proudest of, and it's not something that you really campaign about. It's not a sexy election issue, but it is the most important thing that a city council does, particularly our city council. We have a manager council form of government. That is, the council has very limited powers in the charter. The manager is the one that runs the day-to-day operation. That person, he or she, is the CEO, and we're basically the board of directors. We made a change in that position. We felt that it was time for a change in leadership shortly after I took office. And then one thing I was committed to and really pushed for is that we needed to do a comprehensive nationwide search to find the best person to be the city manager for Amarillo, Texas. And I really meant that I was committed to, because I thought it's such an important position. And we were able to hire an excellent city manager in Grayson Path. He's done an excellent job. I think he's really motivating and getting the most out of our team. I think he's earned the trust of the team. He's earned my trust. And, you can't govern without trust. Right. Is the trust 100%? No, maybe not. But you've got to be able to have that trust. And I think Grayson has really done an outstanding job. And for me, I think Grayson has the opportunity and the ability to go down in the history of Amarillo as one of our great city managers, just like, John Ward, which we recently recognized, John Stiff, because I think he's got the maturity and the experience to be able to do that. And at the end of the day, I think that may be the biggest legacy that this council leaves, is outside of the fire department raises and all those types of things. That's something that can continue to have an impact for 5, 10, 15 years to come. Because it seems, if you look at our past, we had John Ward for the longest time. Yes. And then all of a sudden it was a revolving door. It seemed like every time a new council came in, we were having to change gears and get a new council. But you feel like you've found the right person, and now maybe the council needs to step back and let them do their job. Yeah. I tell you, and a lot has changed since John Stiff and John Ward were city managers, and so I don't think you're ever going to see that again, because politics has just gotten so much more volatile than it used to be. Agreed. Even though we're nonpartisan offices, it's just there's a lot going on there. And the truth is, Grayson is still, he's got young kids. He moved here. He may be here for a little while, but
Right.
he may go somewhere else. And that's okay with me. I mean, if he does a good job here and he wants to better himself and go to a larger city, but I think he really likes it here in Amarillo. I think he looked at other jobs. I think and where he may be, but I think Amarillo was a place that he really wanted to come because he saw opportunity, and like a lot of people, that he saw this as a good place to move his family.
We talked to you at length, and I just want to touch on this subject for just a little bit on the outside attorneys in terms of Amarillo's. We haven't done that a whole lot in the past of getting outside attorney help. Do you feel that that's something that's good for the city of Amarillo? We've got a city attorney. Do we need to continue to go outside and get outside help?
Well, we've done that a lot, but the way this was done was a little bit different. We'd never done it like this before, where the council hired its own attorney.
Right.
Circumventing the city manager and the city staff to be able to do that. We hire outside legal counsel all the time for bond issues and other types of things.
But it goes through the city manager
But
and
it goes
city
to
attorney.
the city manager and that type of thing. And this was different. At the time, it was really for three very specific purposes. We hired the city manager. We did have a little bit of shortage in that department, and we were looking for some expertise in helping us write the sanctuary city ordinance, the ordinance for the charter amendments, and then we added the EDC. Those are the only things that council gave guidance on to do. But somehow this outside counsel started working on other issues which had never been approved by council. And the outside counsel was representing all of us, not individually. And so my concern was, well, why aren't we bringing all these issues to the sunshine so that everybody knows what we're doing? And also, we really didn't have a good handle on the expenses. When we first hired him, we had a certain amount. We said, we're not going to exceed this. Well, we exceeded it by $15,000. And then we said on the Articles of Incorporation, we were not going to spend more than $10,000. But in the end, it was more than double that, and I haven't seen some of the more recent bills. So I think the arrangement was not very productive, and then we had a robust discussion about this in council, and the mayor actually came up with what I thought was a very good idea, some new protocols to put into place where we always go to the city manager first and the staff to see if they can solve the problem or if they know some resources that we can solve the problem with. If they can't, then the council the council member or the mayor does have the opportunity to find their own person to talk to, but not to exceed $1,000 without coming back to council. That protocol has not been put into an ordinance yet. I'm looking forward, hopefully the mayor will get that on the agenda here relatively soon, but we agreed in principle to do that. That was back on January 28th. I'm hoping that we have been abiding by that, even though we haven't officially approved it, because I just think we need to put some guardrails and we need to do things in sunshine, even when we're doing them, just as we expect everybody else to do it as well.
How did your work in the volunteer sector prepare you for serving on city council, knowing it's a volunteer job? At the end of the day, there's not a big heavy paycheck that comes every 2 weeks when you guys have council meeting. How did your work in the nonprofit sector help out?
It's just go back. The thing I like about it, and you look at other offices, they get compensated for that. The county commissioners get compensated, the county judge. I really like our system of the $10 a meeting, because it means, you're getting the truest of volunteers up there. They're not doing it for the money or the compensation. And so it is a volunteer job that you're doing. And I think when you're looking at volunteering, just when you serve on a board or anything else, I mean, my commitment always serving on a board was to do what's in the best interest of that organization. And I think that's the same principles that I would apply to what we're doing with the city, is what is the best for the taxpayers of this community. So, and then, when you're working in various organizations, you work on budgets, you have challenges. You even when I was on the business side, those types of experiences and problem solving really prepare you for what you're going to face when you become a council member.
All right, so I'm going to just step aside. We can look at the camera and talk directly to the voters and tell them why that you need another round at this. Camera one.
Yeah. Well, I've been honored to serve the past 2 years, and I consider it a privilege to be selected by voters in the community to do that. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. We're moving forward. But I have a track record now. So as you look at what this council has done on the issues that are important to you, if you're happy and satisfied with the direction that we've headed on public safety, on streets, infrastructure, flooding, those types of things, I'd ask for your support in allowing me to serve 2 more years in that role to continue to serve the citizens and the taxpayers of Amarillo.
A total of 15 people have decided to put their name on the ballot this go around. We're going to be talking to each and every one of them about subjects that are important to you. I want to give you a couple of dates just to put this on your calendar real quick. The last day to get registered to vote in that election is April 3rd. April is on May 3rd. Again, we're going to be posting all these interviews. We're going to have continuing coverage over on our website, myhighplains.com. Les Simpson, thank you for spending the day with us.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Andy.